today's workshop. So we'll just go through the agenda as we always do, and if there's an item, superintendent or colleagues, please just stop me, and we'll take care of that business as we get to it. All right, so of course the first item will be to call the meeting to order and then approve the agenda, and 2.1 pertains to changes to the agenda, and so we do have a change. And that's for recognitions. Deleted item 3.1, proclamation to recognize the month of September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Added item 3.3, recognition of members of our first responder community. Added item 3.4, Be Hope Now, Inc. is presenting the Okaloosa School District with a $25,000 donation to support the peer support program. So that takes us through the changes to the agenda and then brings us down to recognitions. We mentioned 3.1 is deleted. 3.2 will be a proclamation to recognize the week of September 17th through the 23rd, 2024 as Constitution Week, presented by Superintendent Chambers. 3.3 will be recognition of members of our first responder community, also presented by the superintendent. And then 3.4, we mentioned Be Hope Now, is presenting the Okaloosa County School District with a $25,000 donation to support the peer support program presented by Ms. Peggy Brockman and Ms. Kathy Hutchins with the Be Hope Now, Inc. All right. That takes us through those and brings us down to personnel appointments,
And
section
Dr. White.
4. Yes, sir.
If you don't mind if I interrupt for one quick
Sure,
second.
Sure.
And do you mind if we do our department recognition
No,
during this
that'd be
time?
fine. That'd be fine.
Thank you, sir. And to our school board, as you know, last month, facilities workers who I think they were happy to be here and hear a lot of the words about them, even though it wasn't everybody. And today we have with us our finance department. And within finance, we have our accounting, we have our budgeting, we have our payroll, and we have our purchasing folks who are here. And Ms. Perry is the leader of this group. And one of the things, as we know, and some of us can go back to our teacher days, we can go back to our principal days, or even as a parent in terms of what happens at schools. And it's the hard work that these individuals do here behind the scenes that make this district run. And we talk about the pillars that are up here behind us, and there's 6 pillars, but at the very top, it's about the OCSD family. And it takes each and every one of us working together to make this operation run. And each of our departments play a vital role in that, and finance definitely does that. And you look at late nights, and it's not necessarily every night, but there are definitely many seasons throughout the year where this group right here, they're not leaving at 4 o'clock, and sometimes not 5, 6, or 7. And you look at an $800 million budget, and each of you plays a different role in that $800 million budget. And the work is a whole lot. And we're going to come later on to all the different parts of the budget that'll be finalized tonight, and you guys will vote on it. But it's the hours upon hours of making sure that everything's reconciled. This year's budget is up and coming for the new year, and it takes a lot. And you talk with Mrs. Perry, and I'll say to this group, it doesn't go a meeting where she doesn't brag about the work that you all do. And she is extremely passionate, but she's very passionate about each of you as well. So we just want to say thank you, and I know our school board members might say a few words as well. And then I'm going to randomly choose 3 of you to come up and give a 10-minute speech about what you do in your department and how you impact our county, okay? So 3 of you, just be prepared, but it's going to be random. But thank you for everything that you do. And school board members, you might also have some words.
They probably won't like this, but could we have all of that group stand so we
Ma'am.
can see everybody?
Yes, with finance, please stand.
Thank you.
I'd like to say I'm learning the budget with Ms. Perry, and it is a huge, huge undertaking just to understand a school board financing. And I will also state that this school district rivals the military for using of acronyms, because that's hard to understand. But thank you for your work.
Well, I learned even my first year way back teaching, how important all the financials, starting with the school bookkeeper, and some of you may have been a school bookkeeper at one time and moved along, but it's so important, and you make our jobs easier because the confidence that we have in you and getting it right is there, and that way when I see it, whether on the agenda or whatever, I know that you guys have taken care of it, and we appreciate that and really don't take it for granted. So thank you so much.
And I'll just say, I've been around a while, and I've been associated with finance for a long, long time, and I go all the way back to the time of Mr. Call, and before him, Mr. Richardson, and then later on, Ms. Roberts, and all the way through, and now, of course, with Ms. Perry and all of you. And I'll just say that in all of those years, I know how important it is what you do, and we're very, very grateful for everything that you do to make this school district operate, because funding is important. And so thank you all very, very much. Ms. Gardner?
And I'm going to say, not only does Miss Perry brag on you, not Miss Perry, sorry, Julie, we brag on you also. We, almost every time that we're together, and the audits that are coming out that are always clean and perfect, again, she brags on you, we brag on you, we appreciate you. I've been around about as long as Dr. White has been around, and I remember the time that when we had our own school budgets we had to run, everything from paying for the electricity to the substitute, everything. No matter how much I would monkey up my budget, finance was always a quick call that would always straighten us out, and even to this day, we can call and get the information we need. So we appreciate you, we depend on you, and thank you for what you do day in and day out. You're kind of those quiet individuals behind the scene that keep us running, so thank you.
Very good. Super.
And I'm glad Ms. Gardner said audits, because you guys live in a world of audits as well. It seems like they're always here. But again, thank you for what you do. Don't say it quite often enough, but I will say your leader definitely does appreciate and does share what you all do, and we talk about it. But thank you. We would not be the school district we are without you. So thank you.
All right, so with that, we'll go ahead, and we have no administrative appointments. 5.1 will be blue card public comment. There are no Section 6 items, and then Section 7 will be the approval of the consent agenda. So we'll go through each item, and if you need something in any one of these, please just stop me. All right, 7.2 will be approval of the minutes of the workshop on August 26th and minutes of the regular meeting of August 26th. 7.3 will be the appropriation of District 1 School Board member capital outlay funds to Meigs Middle School for cafeteria furniture in the amount of $20,000 presented by myself and recommended by the superintendent. 7.4, appropriation of District 1 School Board member capital outlay funds to Longwood Elementary School for classroom flooring in the amount of $15,000, $97.25 presented by myself. 7.5, appropriation of District 1 School Board member capital outlay funds to Longwood Elementary School for media center flooring in the amount of $18,963 by myself and recommended by the superintendent. 7.6, appropriation of District 2 School Board member capital outlay funds to Northwood Elementary School for classroom flooring in the amount of $6,812.25, presented by Ms. Gardner and recommended by the superintendent. 7.7, appropriation of District 2 School Board member capital outlay funds to Fort Walton Beach High School for updated stadium landscaping in the amount of $8,994, presented by Ms. Gardner and recommended by the superintendent. 7.8, appropriation of District 3 School Board member capital outlay funds to Meigs Middle School for cafeteria furniture in the amount of $4,012.36, presented by Ms. Ivanchek and recommended by the superintendent. 7.9, appropriation of District 4 School Board member capital outlay funds to Meigs Middle School for cafeteria furniture in the amount of $6,000 presented by Mr. Bryant and recommended by the superintendent. All right. So moving on now to 7.10, budget amendment number 11, fiscal year 23-24, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.11, final monthly financial statement for June 24th, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.12, invoices to be approved for payment, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.13, sole source number 25-06N2Y, presented by Mr. Wyndham, Program Director Purchasing, and recommended by the superintendent. Then 7.14, school donations, presented by Ms. Perry. 7.15, application for impact aid under PL 81-874 for fiscal year 24-25, naming the authorized representative and core user account signer, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.16, superintendent's annual financial report and program cost report for the year ended June the 30th, 2024, presented by Ms. Perry and recommended by the superintendent. 7.17, renewal of ITB 22-01, security fence bid district-wide, presented by Mr. Wyndham and recommended by the superintendent. 7.18, renewal of tag-on bid 3872 AH Food Service, small wares and small equipment, presented by Mr. Wyndham and recommended by the superintendent.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
can I-
ma'am.
I'm going to back up. Sorry, it's Monday. Brain cells going slow. But back on the superintendent's financial piece that you're sending out, does that is that required to go to the state? Is that what happens, or who looks at that?
It does go to the state, but Ms. Perry, come forward.
The financial,
Come forward.
yep, 16.
Yes. Yes, we're required to file the annual financial report and the cost report with the state. Those are the two documents I gave you, big things, yes.
That's what these are, yeah.
Yes. And, yes, and now we are starting our financial audit from the state auditor general, and that's going to go on and last till probably January. So we'll
Okay,
be looking
and
at
so,
everything.
yeah, and so the, I think it was this one, there was one where it said what was budgeted and then what was actual.
Yes, the annual financial report is a report of what we actually expended, all our
Okay.
revenue we actually received, the expenditures we actually made.
Okay, and so even though our year ends June 30th,
Mhm.
we have till September to get that, is that what it is, the window, so we can get that in, and
Yes, ma'am.
that way we can make any changes and,
Yes, because we normally, what we have to do is, like in July, if we receive anything that's June, we have to accrue. There's a lot of things that you have to do to get we can't actually close the old year until about the middle of August. And then they have a lot of late nights and weekends to try to get this done by September.
but also because the state changes some things, right, in the financial, like, don't they?
No, no.
Oh, no,
It's
okay.
it's just a matter of timing of
Timing.
bills and revenue and things like that.
Okay, thank you for that.
Is there ever a month that we are not being audited? Is there ever a
Well, it
period
doesn't
of
feel like
time?
it, right? Because I know we just had, there's always
I
something
know it's a
going
good
on.
thing,
Yes.
but it's also a lot,
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
year-round audits,
Mhm.
and all of our projects, everything that we have,
Yes, ma'am.
okay?
And it might seem like, obvious, but we need to probably state to the public that we have to have a balanced budget.
Oh, yes.
We can't just say, we'll take care of it later. It has to, whatever we're spending has to be what we're bringing
Yes,
in
ma'am.
and so forth. Yes, we
Yes,
can't.
ma'am.
Our credit cards have to be paid off at the end of each month.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes,
yeah.
and that this is a big meeting, and we really appreciate the recognition of the finance department. They all do work very, very hard.
Well,
they
And I
do.
couldn't be any prouder of them.
Absolutely.
And this was a big meeting where our budget process started in February, and this is the final book for that budget process. the annual financial report. Of course, that's the whole year, and now they're going to be going through this whole big audit until January. So it's,
Well, basically, budget's year-round. It
Yes,
never
ma'am.
stops, because that's what drives it, is our budget, but,
yeah. Yes. Thank you again for everything.
no,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. All right, so that takes us to 7.19, application to the state of Florida for District Threat Management Coordinators Grant, TAPS number 25A406, presented by Mr. Dean and recommended by the superintendent. And then 7.20, School Health Services Plan for 24-26, presented by Ms. Schroeder and recommended by the superintendent. All right, that brings us to Section 8, 8.1, information only, employees on administrative leave. 8.2, information only, deferred retirement option program. And then 8.3, employment separations, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.4, personnel recommendations, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.5, employee transfers, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.6, out-of-field report for 2024-2025 school year, presented by Ms. Duran and recommended by the superintendent.
Ms. Duran, I was looking at that, and it seems like it's still the main thing is the ESOL piece, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you know, that was,
And
back
that's-
when I was in the classroom, that was a big thing that everybody was trying to get that.
Sure, and they're considered out of field because they've just started working
Right.
with us, and so they have to complete the school year to get that completed.
Do you know if the college preparatory programs include that now? So if you go through a traditional piece,
Some
you would
do.
already have that?
Some do. Most of the Florida ones do. They come to us with their reading and their ESOL endorsements.
So that way it'd be handled. We wouldn't have to,
Well, but that means you have to have more kids going to college to be teachers, and so that number
that's true.
lessens.
And we would like
So-
to see that, wouldn't we?
Right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, 8.7, employee suspension, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. 8.8, employee suspension, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. And then 8.9, leave without pay, presented by Dr. Hale and recommended by the superintendent. That takes us down to discussion agenda. There are no items there at this time. Section 10, construction program owners, representatives, business, program status report. And then 10.2, authorization for professional services for CMI price validation for TPM program number 6, task orders and scope modifications, presented by Dr. Smith and recommended by the superintendent. Mr. Attorney, anything you have for us today?
One matter, Mr. Chairman. I have two matters of pending litigation that I need to discuss with the board, and we would ask if you would allow us to schedule a special meeting for an executive session prior to the next board workshop. That would be on September 23rd at 8:15 a.m., and we can discuss those matters with the board at that time.
All right, do you require a motion?
No, sir, just want to coordinate that with the chair.
All right, so that's fine with me, colleagues. Sound like it's okay with everybody? I think we're good to go on that,
Thank you.
Mr. McInnes.
And
Thank you, sir.
let me say these, it's in case number 2023 CA 001003 and case 2023 CA 000806F.
All right. And this will be a closed meeting?
That we'll start in a public session and go into closed session to discuss the litigation. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, very good.
8:15 a.m.?
Yes, sir. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. All right, Superintendent, your business, sir.
Thank you, Dr. White and School Board. I want to start off by saying that I think for our entire school district, our hearts go out to Appalachia High School and the Winder, Georgia community. And, you know, every morning, I share with people all the time, every morning when I wake, I say prayers for our school district and for the safety. And anytime that something like this happens, I think it hits us all extremely hard. And I know that that community is going through a lot. And actually, this high school is actually played here in Okaloosa at Fort Walton Beach High School. So it's even more. They call themselves the Chi. So I just want to say to our community, we will be sending out a letter today to our families, to the community, to our employees about this incident, but just also stressing safety. And I think this board, well, I know this board knows, just want to highlight a few things that happened here in Okaloosa. And I think our teachers, our support staff, and our administrators, they're very vigilant in terms of school safety. I think when we look at the amount of practice routines that we do, that we have drills, again, I think that's so important that we take those seriously. So I'm thankful to our teachers and staff and administrators for taking those drills very seriously, every month when we conduct them. And we all know that we have the Fortify app, so we can automatically report dangerous behaviors and push those panic buttons, so to speak. I think we're blessed in our county to have an Office of Safe Schools under the leadership of Danny Dean, who does a tremendous job looking out for our schools and his team. But it's not just about being in the office, it's also about going out to the schools and making sure that the safety measures that we have in place are there. Very thankful for our Sheriff's Department and Sheriff Aiden for the resource officers that we have. And as you know, every school in Okaloosa has a resource officer, and 2 in every high school. You look at our video camera systems, and we're blessed that the Sheriff's Office has partnered with us where those video cameras can patch straight into the Sheriff's Department so they can see specifically what's happening in our schools if the need were to arise. And then looking at our radio systems where they can call lockdowns if necessary at a moment's notice. And then there's so many other things that we do behind the scenes that, of course, we can't talk about. And we all know that we also have the Guardian program as well. And I just say all this to say safety is every day, and it's something that we have to really pay attention to every day. And again, to the families in Winder, Georgia, I know that they also had a lot of these things in place as well. And it's just, it saddens all of us, it sickens all of us, and just, again, our hearts go out. But we will send something out today, and just reiterating, our focus on safety. I've had a lot of families ask me questions about safety, so we thought it was very, very prudent to send something out and just to share what we do as well. And of course, the questions that have come, I understand fully why they're coming. So just want to say that, and if the board has anything to say about this, I'll pause.
I was just going to say that Mr. Morello and the students at Niceville High School did a very nice little video snippet. It's on the parent communication, the Okaloosa Wave. I'm a big fan of that. But they did a nice, like I said, little video snippet, and I encourage our parents to look at that. And again, just that simple saying, if you see something, don't hesitate to say something. That is, and that's for our students, that's for everybody, volunteers that are there, teachers. Doesn't matter what it is. If it brings an alert to you, say something and let somebody investigate it.
Absolutely. Do want to point out a couple other highlights. The Destin Rotary, they not only sponsor but help fund an outdoor classroom at Destin Middle School, so that unveiled last week. So Dr. Small was extremely excited about that. That was several months in the making. Also, Lewis Middle School had a ribbon cutting last week, so they played football at Lewis for the first time in Lewis's existence. So Lewis opened in 1971, and they were playing football over at Niceville High School, sharing with Ruckle, Niceville High School, and Lewis. So they now have their own stadium with lights, with a press box, and then a concession stand and bathrooms are coming. But it was very nice to see the old guard there that was there as well as those who are currently in the program. It was really neat to see. And it's another example of our half-cent sales tax and capital dollars at work to make a difference for these students. We do know it's Patriots Month. I'd like Ms. Lightbourne to come up. She's going to share just a little bit about what we're doing for Patriot Month, and I'm going to add a few things as well.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So first, I know everyone knows, but our founding fathers, the entire month of September, Our schools will coordinate instruction at all grade levels related to the nation's founding fathers. So and you'll see little bits of this. That was given out at a principals meeting. And so there's lots of instruction going on, mostly in social studies classes, about the founding fathers. As you guys know, we celebrated Labor Day. But I'm not sure everybody understands it's a great day off, but does everybody understand really what it is? So it's a day to celebrate the social and economic contributions workers have made to America's prosperity, strength, and well-being. I wanted to make sure we said that because I think a lot of our students especially just enjoy the day off. They really need to understand why. During the weeks leading up to September 11th, we'll be sharing testimonials, and these are on our district webpage. And I wanted to play the first one. This is the first one that was up, and this was one of our folks in Okaloosa County who was a first responder during 9/11, but still what it felt like. So.
My name is Audrey Adams. I'm the Assistant Manager of Okaloosa County Emergency Sheriff's Office Consolidated Communications. So we dispatch deputy sheriffs, we dispatch EMS, and we dispatch the fire department to emergencies. On 9/11, I was sitting in a dispatch chair for the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office in Crestview, Florida, answering 911 phone calls. We had the news on that day, and I looked up at the television, and the time that I looked up at the television, it was right as the second plane was coming through. And it was disbelief and shock.
The World Trade Center, Tower number 1 is on fire.
Anger had not even set in at that point because we didn't know what was happening. Shortly after we're all watching the video footage, we're realizing that people are jumping from a building that is on fire. It was the most horrific thing. And then trying to process that and then also understand at the same time what might be coming next. What's happening to the world? Who's doing this? A dispatcher's main job and a 911 call taker's main job is to send help in any situation. You're there to be the voice and the calming presence for anybody who needs help. And my heart was breaking, not only for what was happening across the nation, but my fellow dispatchers and dispatch family across the world that were taking phone calls from loved ones. And family members taking phone calls from their loved ones, begging for help, and no one could send help. The scene was chaotic. With all the emergency responders rushing in, there were so many conversations where people were begging and pleading for someone to save their life. And that help was not going to arrive in time. They were making the unbelievably horrific decision to jump from buildings because what was behind them was too horrific. And that's forever changed anybody, any emergency responder, any telecommunicator, any family member. The biggest thing that you can take from it is do what you can in the moment. Help everybody that you can in the moment and come back the very next day, the very next shift, and do it all over again. And if I can assist my county, my citizens and the visitors to this county, if I can assist our communications officers, anybody within the agencies that we serve with being able to effectively do their job, then I feel like I've done my job. From the smallest of things to the biggest of things, we can all walk out at the end of the day, at the end of a shift, and know that we have done something to help someone else. And that's just a feeling like no other. There's nothing comparable to that feeling. We're not all famous. No one will remember our names after we're gone outside of our loved ones. But we know that we did something for someone every single day of our lives, and that's just an unbelievably precious gift.
So, pretty powerful, right? Yeah. So that is on our district webpage. If you want to lead people to there, I think it's a very powerful moment. I think she did a beautiful job expressing all of those feelings. So anyway, just wanted everybody to see that. Kind of chokes you up a little bit. Patriots Day, also during this time, schools will hold remembrance ceremonies. Morning announcements will lead to the moment of silence, and I'm going to show you one more video today. It's a quicker one. And then also secondary students in civics and United States government have at least 45 minutes of instruction on 9/11 heroes on 9/11. So those are very specific examples, but there are many, many more curriculum pieces as well. On Constitution Day, that's September 17th, students in Okaloosa County will observe the importance of the Constitution 237 years after the delegates of the Constitutional Convention met for the first time to sign the documents. Students will learn about the Constitution and the importance this document to our nation's history and the freedoms we appreciate. And then Freedom Week, which is September 23rd through the 27th, at least 3 hours of instruction on the intent, meaning, and importance of the Declaration of Independence, and students will recite the preamble of the Constitution at the beginning of each day. So far, we have had some patriotic-themed pep rallies, military appreciation nights at football games. If you look on Niceville's website, you'll see that they were red, white, and blue. This past weekend, everyone in the stands was red, white, and blue. It was a pretty awesome sight. There are thank you notes going out to first responders and military. There's spirit dress-up days with patriotic themes and bells across America. Just some of the things that are going to happen. And then this will be played on the TVs in the schools on 9/11.
Today in our schools, on the anniversary of the terrorist attack that occurred against our nation on 9/11, we will take a moment to pause. In solemn remembrance of those whose lives were lost that day, in unwavering support of the families who lost loved ones during the attack on our nation, in utmost respect of the heroic first responders who risked everything on that day, and in patriotic appreciation of the brave men and women of our military who keep our nation safe each and every day. Please join us in a moment of silence.
That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Lightbourne. And I think you know, Board, there'll be, like Mrs. Lightbourne said, there'll be a number of other activities that will be happening at individual school sites. I do want to say you saw that first video, and there are other videos as well, so I'm just very thankful to Mr. Mers as we've gone out into the community to our local folks on how this day or how that day impacted them. If you look at, there's the video of Deputy John Woolforth, was actually one of the police officers on site that day. There was a Tech Sergeant Gomez, who was a 10-year-old in school in the New York area that day and shares his experience and others. So tonight, we will have a number of our first responders that will be here tonight, and we'll thank them for what they do each and every day. And again, just want to thank our schools this month on really recognizing and paying tribute to our country, to our first responders, to our founding documents and fathers. So it's a big month in our school district, and I just appreciate Mrs. Lightbourne leading that, and especially our principals for what they do each and every day.
I think it's fabulous. That looks wonderful, and I'm so glad that we're doing that. I think it's a very dignified, comprehensive curriculum that we're showing there, and I really like it. And I know the three of us were all in a school situation. You were still, principal, when 9/11 hit. I was a teacher, you two were, and there's something about being in a school setting when that happened that will never leave us. And it's good that the students, of course, these students weren't even thought of, but it's important that we not overdo it, but share that, in an appropriate way based on the student's age, what happened that day and its significance. And then tying it in with those important documents and the things that our country stands for, I think is essential. You know, particularly this year when we have elections, and I'm sure those teachers are bringing that into about elections and why elections are so important in voting. And so I think great job in putting that together, and I appreciate that.
I was going to also mention that, again, going back to the parent newsletter, these video snippets are embedded in there, and they really are powerful. And watching those, it just brings back all those feels. And like you said, Ms. Van Check, it's something we don't need to forget, and it really is very powerful. So I encourage our parents and the public to watch those video snippets. And I'm so glad when I saw the agenda that we are bringing those individuals and recognizing them, because we don't need to forget.
And as a former American history teacher, I very much appreciate the good work that's gone into our founding documents. And I think that oftentimes Americans sometimes forget how unique we are, and that we have written guarantees of our freedoms. And going over that with our young people, I just think is so, so important. So thank you, Superintendent, Ms. Lightborn, and all of your folks for doing that.
History's
Thank you.
important.
Absolutely. So a couple other announcements, and then I'm going to have Mr. Meyer come forward. I do want to thank Ms. Barron back there for leading our new principal learning walks. And it's also for our assistant principals, and it's an added component to the professional learning for our principals and assistant principals. And in essence, what this is they all go to a school, and they go into classrooms. They look at the excellent instruction that is occurring, so we can kind of see where we are as a school district and how we can take away some of the lessons learned in classrooms and bring them back to other schools as well. So about 20 of our administrators converged on Pryor Middle School, and they separated into different groups and went into different classrooms. But a lot of organization on the front side happens to make that day go successfully. And there's a number of other learning walks that are going to occur this year for our principals and assistant principals. But as thank you for that leadership in setting that up.
So every administrator will go through that at one point, just one time, probably is all you can get through?
No, multiple times.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
good. Okay, good.
Tonight, we'll talk more about the Bring Hope Now, the $25,000 that is being donated for our Hope Squads, but we'll talk a little bit about that more tonight. Do want to say congratulations to old Dr. Hale over there, who's going to be a 96 Test Wing Honorary Commander. So that's exciting. I know he's thinking he's like Top Gun. He's thinking he's going to get in there and fly those planes, so he's looking forward to that. And Mr. Meyer, if you come forward. And what Mr. Meyer is going to discuss is our district comprehensive facilities plan, and this is several years in the making, and I think we all know we have a 5-year capital outlay plan, but it's also under Mr. Meyer, his leadership with his group, it's going beyond the 5 years, and he's really put a great document together for you today, where you're going to kind of see the state of where we are and where we're going. And I just appreciate the hard work and the foresight to put the future planning into place.
Thank you, Mr. Chambers. Thank you, Board. Good morning.
Good morning.
So Ms. McGowan is going to pass that out for me if you can. This is a document that, you're right, it was well over a year in the making. And what we wanted to do was to consolidate the capital plans for the district in one document, where we have our maintenance needs, our 1.5 capital needs, but also our half-cent sales tax projects in one document. It was a team effort. We had a lot of people involved in this process, and Hillary on the tech side shop printed this for us. But that is your copy to flip through, and we're going to unpack that here in a second. But I think it turned out well. And the difficulty when you're master planning 38 different sites, it's difficult. The farther you extend that timeline out, the more difficult it becomes. We know the funding that we have in the current year, and we know the needs we have at this moment, but the unforeseen issues is where you run into issues when you're planning so far out. I bring you an example. This was a bridge in Honduras, Central America. So this bridge was needed in this area for multiple reasons. It was originally built in the 1930s. It was redesigned in the 90s, and they started construction in 96. This was a big project for this country, and they reached out to Japan, and they were actually, the architects came from design, the design work came from Japan. They spent $36 million on this bridge. I say to say all this, it took 2 years to complete. In 98 it was done, and they had a storm. And we're familiar with storms, and during that storm, it actually rerouted the river. So now they have a $36 million bridge to nowhere. And it just, when you're looking at the future needs and where you're going to spend resources, you have to plan and plan accordingly. So I don't know if you've heard that story, but when I saw that, I was like, you know, that's an extreme example of what can happen. So.
I hope this is no.
No, I hope so too.
I hope, yeah.
I hope so too.
We're not doing bridges, so we're okay.
We're not
all good.
Yes.
No,
No bridges.
schools for nobody, right?
Right.
Oh, okay.
So there's a disclaimer in here multiple times that this is all subject to change based on available funding, cost of construction. As we well know, after COVID, construction costs went up. And then we are looking at this on an annual basis. We actually, in the team sitting here, we meet every other week and talk about master planning. But you do not know the unforeseen circumstances, so we're going to keep that in mind as well. When you look at the book, and if you do a little unpacking of that, in the front section, we have a lot of different information that we've compiled from over the last few years. Our mission is that we're going to look at the future capital needs of the district, and we actually looked at every facility, and we did a facilities assessment on what they needed. And this is going to guide us in our decision-making from year to year, also up to 5 years, and some of this goes out 10-plus years. As you know, when we're looking at the future needs of the district, you want to plan out where you can, even 10 years and more. It does not have specific designs. It's just projects. There's no engineering tied to this, and of course, if you don't have design work, budgeting in there. It also has a large section on capacity analysis. As you know, estimating future growth of the district is so important, where we're going to need additional classrooms, where we might need new schools, where we might be decreasing in certain areas. So all that is laid out, and we looked at and take that into account on our needs as well. Then we go into some major considerations throughout the county, and then also looking at new construction. And we've talked about this several times in the last few years, but when you do break down the county in the north end, we are about to start construction on a new K-8. We have 10 classrooms going in at Baker. We have additional land in the north, so around the Baker area, we have 25 acres to the south of that campus. We have purchased additional land where we put parking recently. We also purchased 2 parcels on the north side of Baker. So we have plenty of space to grow in the Baker area. We have additional large portion of land in the north part of the county, in the northeast of Crestview, where we can do something with in the future. On the new K-8 campus, we have an additional 40 acres. That's an 80-acre site, so we can plan there for the future. Crestview campus itself has some land that we could use. It'll put a potential 9th grade center on. So we have options in the north end when we look on what's going on now and where we're heading in the future. The new K-8 is going to essentially touch just about every other school. So as we rezone there, we're going to have additional space in the elementary and the middle schools. The central area, we have the property off of Lancaster that we're working on now. We have purchased additional land next to Ruckle. That gives us some options there. In Destin, we purchased additional property at the south of the Destin Elementary. We're adding the new 3 through 5 center, which will not only affect the Destin Elementary, it's going to affect the middle school as well. South, not many people know, but we do own property next to Shalimar Elementary. It's quite a bit of land there. We have talked through different options that we could do with that property, whether it's a new school, a new middle school, or even looking at schools that may have decreasing enrollment where we could consolidate schools in the Fort Walton area. So all that is taken into consideration, and we're looking at that in the numbers of our student enrollment each year.
And Mr. Meyer, and this slide right here is extremely important. And this board, your leadership and vision, especially over the last 3 to 4 years, has helped to put us in a great spot. Like Mr. Meyer said, acquiring land in Baker, acquiring land in Niceville, having land in Crestview. It gives us so much flexibility from new school construction to classroom additions on school campuses to future schools beyond the K-8 school as well in the north end of the county, as well as the central and south. You heard one of the things that Mr. Meyer said is that we go 5 years out, 10 years out. There could come a point in time where we need to consolidate schools as well. So looking at that student population, which Mr. Meyer will talk a little bit more about as well. So student populations where in one trend it looks like you're going up 2%. Well, a year or two later, part of the county was going up at about 2%. Now it's kind of consistent, and that increase has stabilized, so to speak. So I very much appreciate Mr. Meyer and the group, Mr. Spolsky and his group really looking at that student population.
Thank you. And then under the portfolio planning, we know we have 2 existing COPs at the moment, and if we were to take on a third, we would really have to look at that and see what that does to our budget. And we work with finance and Julie's group all the time on
Perry
that.
squirming.
Right, yes. So, but we needed those COPs, and that first COP got us to begin those large projects and to move quickly, and we're ahead of schedule, and have Joel here and to speak on some of this as well. But those were needed, and we're about to start the second COP on the new schools construction with those 3 projects. So
When do we retire the first COP?
the first COP,
It's a 9-year COP, so
So-
we got it in 22, so it'll be 31.
30.
It's going to be it coincides with the end of the sales tax.
correct. Yep.
And I think that's a great question, Mr. Heinley, because we made sure, and again, this board also made sure that the COP did coincide with the half-cent sales tax and not go beyond the half-cent sales tax. So I really appreciated that, and it set us up to be in a great spot to be prepared for the second COP. So we knew in the first COP we would go for the second COP. And in the first 3 years of the first COP, we had a certain payment, and we knew after the first 3 years it would go down, which set us in a spot to be prepared for the second COP.
Good question, thank you. And actually, I'm going to skip a slide and come back. So this is talking about the sales tax revenue stream, and you can see we're in great shape. So we are essentially 3.5 years in, and we've been between $30 and $32 million that we're bringing in each year. This year, it looks like we're on pace for the same thing. And our total is around $112 million for the 3.5 years. This does include the payment off of that first COP. So the payment was $21 million each year of that 30, but it is going to go down next year to 12. So we're going to have those additional funds starting next year on the half-cent sales tax things.
And so the blue is what we expected.
We
And
anticipated.
the green is
yes,
how much
what we
more.
actually brought in.
Yeah,
so.
that's amazing.
So we're blessed to have this half-cent sales tax. I've said that before. We're in great shape in the community involvement and what we've been able to do in the short amount of time on the projects that we've been able to complete. And if we continue this trend, we're going to speed projects up that are on the referendum. And then if we get each project done, we'll be able to do additional projects at the end of this 10-year cycle. So we're in good shape here.
You're still using the estimates for your basis?
Yes, yes. Questions? So I'm going to go back. Mr. Chambers?
Go ahead.
This is the capital outlay, so this is the 1.5 funds. And again, you can see from 2020 to now, it has increased. And we are, again, lucky. Remember, this is based off of our property values. And we're able to use these capital dollars on capital projects, but I also listed some things on the right-hand side that just like the other 67 districts, we're able to use these funds on seat management, paying off of our debt service. We've been buying buses, and now the charter schools are getting a portion of that. So even though it's going up and looks in this year we're right around $45 million. With the other things factored, we have around $20 million for different maintenance and new projects.
And you see the value going up each year. And one of the things that we know, this is that 1.5 money. So that tax is there. That tax is not increased. This tax comes from the state. The reason why the amount has gone up is because property values have gone up. And sometimes we get that question, are we raising taxes? And the answer is no. With the 1.5, the property values have gone up.
That's right. And next year, that debt service is going to go up because this is how we're funding the next COP. So.
But you know what is kind of scary to think about is if the sales tax had not passed, we would be trying to operate everything on that, and the chances of getting anything new added just would have been, I mean, I remember when we were just hoping for a new bus.
Right.
Not, that was, if we could just get a couple new buses. But I hope the public can understand the difference in the two sources of income, because this basically just takes care of every day keeping the lights on and moving and all those things. So, yes.
Good.
So that's a strong statement, what you just said. If we did not have the half-cent sales tax, we would not be building a new K-8. We would not have done any of the classroom additions, none of the cafeterias, none of the multipurpose buildings. The complete renovation of air conditioning systems and roofs would not have occurred. Longwood would not have occurred, and the list goes on and on. What we would have done with the remaining $20 million is we would have
Excuse me.
started a process of fixing some air conditioning systems, fixing some roofs, but not being able to do it just in one fellow swoop like we are now. We would not have right now 106 new buses in purchase. That would not have happened as well. We would have purchased some buses, but nowhere near to the extent of what we've done in just a little over 3 years. We're a little over 3 years into this.
And what we would have had to done, this board, with your recommendations, is to make choices. The worst choices we would have had to make is which school gets what, just to be, just as repairs, not even, and that would have been, with
We
so
were
much
just-
need, that would have been a nightmare, trying to make those choices.
We were just doing patchwork. It's like, what Band-Aid do we put on what school? It was just patchwork,
And, yeah.
trying
it's
to get
terrible.
by.
That's a great point. So when we look at those budgets and timelines, ideally, we would love to do them all at one time. We'd have the finances and the capability to do them all at once. But you're right, we do have to prioritize and which ones we can get to first. And then that way, that's where the 5-year capital plan comes into place. And we do this every year within the summary budget finance puts together. There is the 5-year capital work plan from the facility side of things. And Within that, the district also has a 5-year facilities work plan, and this is submitted to the state every year, and now it's done electronically. But Dr. Bill Smith, his group and team submits this each year after the capital outlay budget is done. And where that starts with, and Ms. Perry and the finance group that was here, things do have to be budgeted every year, and it has to be balanced. And the first year of the capital outlay budget is the first year of the district's work plan. And then we anticipate that revenue the next 4 years, and we add projects to the 5-year timeline. So that's how that works each year. And then, as Mr. Chambers said, and in our portfolio here, we have some enrollment projections, and we've looked at this a couple different ways. We've looked at historical data with MIS and John's team, and then Jacobs Titan has gone out and looked at future enrollment all the way to 2030. And we can use that data and determine where we need classrooms and, again, new schools. But things do change. Mr. Chambers pointed out the central area. Probably 3 or 4 years ago, we were really on track for a new school. Right now, it is flat. So we've adjusted, and we can only use the data that's current and what we have in front of us. So predicting exactly where everything is a difficult task. The facilities group works with the different cities and the county, and we talk with them where new development is coming, and we use that information. And right now, it looks like the north end, Crestview area, is where we're seeing more growth than anywhere else. Baker potentially does. They have some areas out there that some new homes are coming in. But again, what type of homes are being built, all that is in consideration. So when we look at future student enrollment and our needs there. Okay. All right, and then, so to the majority of this book, is information for each school. So what we did was we identified the facilities needs, and we did an assessment of each one of our school buildings. And we had several people involved with that. Jacobs Titan, our maintenance department, Mr. Bolton and Mr. McElroy, our contractors that we use, our roofing contractors, our HVAC contractors, and then we met with the school administration on their needs and wants and what they know of their school, because they're in it every day. They see where the leaks are and the issues. So we've compiled all that information over the last year, and we put that in this document. And really, this team, again, this is constant conversation, and we're lucky enough, too, to have Jacobs Titan, our total program manager, being with us for so long. They've been through this process over and over. So, Joel, do you mind coming up and saying a few things on his experience?
Thanks, Mr. Mark. Good morning.
Good morning.
Most of you know me, except for Mr. Heinley. I think welcome to the board. Mr. Meyer alludes to the fact that we've been doing this with you guys as the total program manager for approximately 30 years. So a lot of this information that goes into the document that you have in front of you is very iterative. It happens pretty much on a weekly basis in our meetings with maintenance, finance, sometimes board members. It's a constantly evolving process how we work with you guys to establish what those future needs might be. And it's not by mistake that we've done this for 30 years. You guys have engaged with us back in the early 2000s to start an actual physical survey of every one of your 38 facilities, and then that just continues to get modified and built upon as things go. It's a living document, so it's a lot of hard work that goes into putting a document like that together that you guys have in front of you today. But it'll change probably next month in our next meeting, because we're constantly evolving priorities, funding issues, state mandates that get handed down to you guys without any funding associated with them. So we have to be nimble, but working with the board and the district's team and the management that they have in place now, it makes it a lot easier for us. So we are grateful to be partnered with you guys to help keep looking towards the future, and look forward to continuing to do that with you. Appreciate it.
I want to ask you a question.
Oh,
Huh? You're not surprised.
thought I was going to get away.
You're not surprised. This is a little off topic, but just in general, when we were through the pandemic around 2020, 21, we talked a lot about problems with supplies. Where are we on that? I haven't heard that spoken of in a while. I know we know about cost,
Yeah.
but as far as actually getting the supplies you need, are you able to do that, or where's that at?
It's almost back to normal for most items. You still have long lead for some mechanical related equipment, and it probably seems to be the most noticeable still in electrical switchgear. It's still sometimes if you don't spec it right, you're waiting a year to get a panel. Transformers are a year out. So I mean, we're talking about the K-8 school being started. We've already been talking with FPL, because in some cases, the equipment that we're going to need for that school is 14 months out. So
Oh, wow.
that seems to be still what is, I guess, still lagging most things. But it was wood, it was concrete. Now it's, I mean, most of those things, I wouldn't say they're back to normal. They're back to, they're better. They're not back to pre-pandemic situations, but it's a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of pre-planning. In some cases, we change the design to take advantage of different materials that we know we can get versus ones that aren't readily available.
But
So,
that's obviously a part of the planning, along with everything
Oh, yeah.
else, is
Yeah.
if you can't get the materials, you can't build it. So,
Definitely,
mhm.
yes.
Thank you.
No, sure. Thanks.
So you can see on there the categories that we look at, and we've talked about this in the past, that we had a lot of HVAC systems and a lot of roofs that we needed to do catch-up, and we've been doing that. But we look at those different categories in all of our discussions. And you can see Jacob Heighton there did surveys all the way back to 2003 and 4. So not only are we submitting the 5-year capital plan every year, we've been doing other assessments along the way. And then in your booklet, we have campus summaries, and what this is just a blueprint of each facility. If you look at it, those are a lot of maintenance needs in a table, and it also has the half-cent sales tax projects, and the ones that are completed will say completed. And then there's some other information on there as well, but this document will evolve each year, and we'll do updates and we'll make revisions, but it's an easy guide to look at and view when anybody asks, what are we doing on our school facilities? So, and also, the other part of this is looking at budgets and the finances that are coming in. This will help us with a plan. And then, this is just an example of one of the schools that are on there, and you can see each page has when the school was built, where it is in our county, the enrollment, growth analysis, some general information, whether we've done projects or what we're thinking, and then it goes into the maintenance side, the capital 1.5. This is not just 5 years that are on there. This is more comprehensive. So everything that's on the 5-year plan is in this, but then additional projects are on there, and then we have projects that are going 10 years out as well. And then the half-cent sales tax, we have a overlay of each school with potential ideas or plans where we could go in and put new buildings, new parking lots. For example, right here, this is the Crestview on the top pink shaded area. That is potentially where a 9th grade center could go as well. So a lot of information on each one of those. And then we have some information on athletics of each one of our high schools and our middle schools. So each secondary school, what we've completed over the last few years, which some people don't realize that we've been trying to help with lighting, scoreboards and such, some of the upcoming projects and some of their requests for the future. So we've added a portion of it for athletics as well. Mr. Chambers? Any questions?
Oh, I'll wait.
Did you have something?
No, go ahead.
No, I didn't. I just, this is available to the public, right? It's on our website, or will be, or some, I don't know, it's a
It
big
will be.
document, yeah. But I'm hoping that people will see this and will answer the question of, that I still get, and I know you still get, why don't we just tear them all down and start over? And I think this kind of explains, this is, and I appreciate that, because there's no way we could do that. And, but this is the most comprehensive plan that we've undertaken in this school district, and I don't even know how long, and I've been at my whole life, so I can't remember. I know we built a lot of schools in the 60s and all that, but to come through and do this is really an achievement, and it's exciting. And thank you I know this was a lot of work. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And I would just say, to wrap it up, I know Mr. Meyer gets nervous of putting out the 10-year plans, because we know that things can change. The most extreme example of that is the central area. Literally 2 years ago, we were starting the process to build an elementary school. And the enrollment, where it was going up in a 2% trend, has sustained. It hasn't gone up in a 2% trend. However, we've still positioned ourselves with land when the need arises. There's also has been a pivot where we know that the cafeterias that are being built new, the old cafeterias, we will turn into classroom space, which will add capacity at those schools. We also, in the central area, by purchasing the land that we did across from Ruckle, would allow us to do an 8th or 9th grade center as well. So that's just an extreme example of having to pivot. Ms. Ivanchek, one of the things that you mentioned was, why don't you all just knock down these schools and start over? I remember it was 3 or 4 years ago when we had this conversation. To do it at that time, if you just looked at the amount of buildings that were, I think, 40 to 50 years old, if we did that, that would have been approximately $2.5 billion to do. And the amount of years that it would have taken to do that would have been also astronomical. But having a plan in place in each part of the county, north, central, south, and you saw what we went through, where we have strategically land in Baker, land in the north end. Central, we also have land. In the south end, we have land as well. So we're positioned now to continue to renovate our buildings, add to our buildings, and be prepared for new school construction when the time arises, as well as looking at things such as our school buses as well, which we had the oldest fleet in the state of Florida. We were number 1 in that. We're no longer number 1 in the oldest fleet. So I just appreciate Mr. Meyer, his group, and what they do. I think you heard Mr. Joel talk about, they meet very often, and they talk about these things, but adjustments will be made. But what we do have is a plan going forward, and we've always had the 5-year capital plan, and this is more comprehensive as well, and I just appreciate the work.
And thank you, Mr. Meyer, and I too appreciate the fact that you have every school listed, and also the provision you have there for school safety, because maybe at some juncture, those items that are in the public domain that we're allowed to talk about, it might be interesting for the public to see just how much of an investment we've made in school safety over the last 4 or 5 years. And I would say that it's a significant number. And I think that would speak to some of the concerns that we have every day in our schools. And then lastly, I appreciate the fact that you say that this is a dynamic and a fluid document, because we all remember what happened when the Army came to stay with us in Crestview, and what that meant to our schools there and in the surrounding areas. And conversely, we've had some real scares with BRAC and base realignment, and the concerns that causes whenever that becomes a topic of conversation. So it is dynamic, and I think it's good that you've made that part of your plan so that we can adjust as we need to. Colleagues, anything else? Okay, thank you, Superintendent.
And that is it.
Okay. All right, so that takes us down then to board members' announcements and requests. We do have an action item 13.1. This is required by state law and pertains to school board member travel. And so colleagues, you can see that item there. We'll need a motion and to act on 13.1. And then 13.2, board members' announcements. You may have some things you'd like to talk about today, and of course this evening as well. So, Mr. Heinley, sir, is there anything?
Question, what about the December training for school board members? Is that in the future meeting requirement?
So you're speaking to 13.1 specifically,
Well,
or?
that reminded me, we have something in December,
Yeah,
that's coming up.
so that'll be something that we'll have to get with Ms. Mary and Ms. Amber and have on the agenda, or?
Superintendents and school board.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
And it's something the legislature passed a few years ago that we would act on these things as they come up. So thank you for the question. Anything else?
Yes, got to continue my tradition. Today is
Oh.
the 9th day of the month, so school board members and superintendent, who was the 9th president of the United States?
Well, if you're going to ask that every time we come, I'm going to get a little list here.
We're gonna have a little cheat sheet in our drawer.
But I can tell you, I don't believe it was one of our founders.
And I believe it might have been William Henry Harrison.
Bingo. Very
All right,
well
now,
done.
We've seen that happen with debates. You didn't give the question beforehand.
I may have Googled ahead of time. I may have Googled ahead of time. But he
Well,
did say he was going to ask the question.
Yeah, that's the trick. We want to filibuster and give us a chance to Google, okay?
I'll remember next time. I'm gonna be ready next time.
All right, Mr. Heinley. Okay, Ms. Vanchak?
Yes, a couple of things. First of all, I want to remind students and parents out there that College Night is this Wednesday at Northwest Florida State College at the Raider Arena from 5:30 to 7. That's always good, and if you'll look on their website, they will, you can see a list of all the different colleges and universities that are coming, and that's a very good thing. And them being college, they can pull a lot more colleges and representatives than we can at our schools. And I know our schools do some things, but that's always a good thing to go to. Also up at Baker on the 26th of September, they're having a Title I family engagement morning at 8 o'clock in their cafeteria. That's always good for families to understand the Title I program and what it can offer. I think people only think it's about lunches and free lunch and all that, but Title I is comprehensive in a lot of services for students. And that's coming up on September 26th. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vanchak. Ms. Gardner?
I will be sitting in for Mr. Bryan at the construction program meeting. I guess it follows right after this, so I will have a report on that when we
Okay,
get back to 10.1. And I mentioned several things about the parent newsletter, and I just would encourage our parents to go back and watch that and look at those video clips. And I'm really happy that we are going to be recognizing those individuals tonight. So.
All right, very good. And so that'll take us to public comment. We don't yet know, but I would call your attention to public hearings, public meetings. And so starting at 15.1 and going all the way down through 15.16. So as a matter of formality, let's go through each one real quick right now. 15.1 is required local effort millage rate by Ms. Perry. 15.2, basic discretionary operating millage rate by Ms. Perry. 15.3, capital outlay millage rate by Ms. Perry. 15.4, millage levy rate total by Ms. Perry. 15.5, Resolution 24-12 adopting the millage rate. 15.6, Okaloosa County School District Budget General Fund for fiscal year 24-25 by Ms. Perry. 15.7, Okaloosa County School District Budget Special Revenue Funds Food Service for 24-25 by Ms. Perry. 15.8, Okaloosa County School District Budget Special Revenue Funds and Other Federal Programs for fiscal year 24-25 by Ms. Perry. 15.9, Okaloosa County School District Budget Special Revenue Funds ARP Elementary Secondary School Emergency Relief 3 ESSER 3 Fund 445 for fiscal year 24-25 by Ms. Perry. 15.10 for fiscal year 24-25. 15.11, Okaloosa County School District Budget Special Revenue Funds Miscellaneous, presented by Ms. Perry. 15.12, Okaloosa County School District Budget Debt Service Funds for 24-25 by Ms. Perry. 15.13, Okaloosa County School District Budget Capital Project Funds for fiscal year 24-25 by Ms. Perry. 15.14, Okaloosa County School District Budget Internal Service Funds for fiscal year 24-25 by Ms. Perry. 15.15, Okaloosa County School District Budget for fiscal year 24-25 by Ms. Perry. And then 15.16, Resolution 24-13, adopting the Okaloosa County School District Budget for fiscal year 24-25 by Ms. Perry, and all recommended by Superintendent Chambers. That's quite a few hearings this evening. You'll have to help me remember to ask for comment each time. All right, so anything else, colleagues? Superintendent, staff, union, anything? All right, this meeting is adjourned.